I welcome you to the Love Lies channel. I am John, an architect living in the bustling heart of New York City. From the outside, our life seems like a well-orchestrated symphony of success and happiness. My wife Catherine and I are often seen as the epitome of the modern dynamic couple. Catherine works at a prestigious art gallery, a place that buzzes with creativity and elegance. Her world is filled with whispers of artistic genius, vibrant colors, and the kind of sophistication that seems to effortlessly spill over into our life at home. Her passion for art has always been one of the things I admired most about her. We met at an art exhibit 5 years ago, a meeting that felt serendipitous in its perfection. Catherine, with her effortless grace and insightful commentary on the pieces, captured my attention immediately. Our connection was instant and intense. We shared a love for culture, a deep appreciation for the finer things in life, and an unspoken understanding that we were meant for each other. When we married 2 years later, it was a celebration that seemed to encapsulate all our dreams. The ceremony was held in a charming gallery space, bathed in the soft glow of candlelight, and surrounded by a collection of exquisite artworks that felt like they were meant to bear witness to our union. The reception was a blend of laughter, music, and heartfelt toasts, as friends and family celebrated what they believed was the perfect match. Our apartment in Manhattan was a reflection of our shared tastes, minimalist yet warm, with large windows that framed stunning cityscapes and let in the soft light that made our home feel both expansive and intimate. We spent our weekends exploring art fairs, attending gallery openings, and indulging in our favorite restaurants, each experience strengthening our bond. We had plans, grand plans. We dreamed of traveling to Europe, immersing ourselves in the art and culture of Paris and Rome, and perhaps even starting a family shortly. Catherine had often talked about how she envisioned our life together, filled with adventures and artistic inspiration. On the surface, we appeared to have it all: a thriving career, a loving relationship, and a future full of potential. Our lives seemed to be a perfect tapestry woven with the threads of success and happiness. It was a life many envied and few questioned, but as I would come to learn, the most intricate designs often conceal the most unexpected frays. What seemed like the ideal life was, in reality, a fragile illusion, waiting to unravel in ways I could never have imagined. In the months that followed, I began to notice a shift in Catherine's interests. She had always been passionate about art, but recently, her enthusiasm had turned towards something quite different: ancient artifacts. At first, I thought it was just a new phase, a fleeting interest that would soon fade away. After all, Catherine had always been someone who immersed herself deeply in her passions. Her new fascination with antiquities consumed her time and attention. Our living room, once filled with minimalist art and clean lines, slowly transformed into a cluttered space of archaeological journals, dusty relics, and enigmatic symbols. Catherine would spend hours poring over books and artifacts, her excitement palpable as she delved into the mysteries of ancient civilizations. While her passion for these ancient treasures was unusual, I tried to be supportive. I would listen to her elaborate on her discoveries and attend the occasional lecture or exhibit with her. Despite my best efforts to engage, I couldn't shake the feeling that something about this new interest was unsettling. It wasn't just the change in her focus. It was the way she seemed to withdraw from our shared life, as if these artifacts were becoming more important than anything else. Then came the frequent late-night excursions. Catherine would leave the apartment in the evening, saying she needed to meet with colleagues or attend special viewings related to her artifact research. These outings became more regular, and her absences grew longer. I found myself spending more evenings alone, watching the city lights flicker from our window, trying to fill the silence that had settled between us. One evening, as I sat at our kitchen table, I noticed a new name cropping up in Catherine's conversations: Michael. She spoke of him with a mixture of admiration and excitement, mentioning how he was an expert in ancient artifacts and had been instrumental in helping her with her research. She seemed genuinely thrilled about the progress they were making together. The more Catherine talked about Michael, the more my unease grew. There was a certain sparkle in her eyes when she mentioned his name, a sparkle that I hadn't seen in a long time. I tried to push my concerns aside, attributing them to my insecurities rather than anything substantial. After all, Catherine had always been passionate about her work, and perhaps this was just another aspect of her enthusiasm. But as the weeks went by, the signs became harder to ignore. Her secretive nature about her late-night activities, the increasing frequency of her absences, and her heightened enthusiasm for Michael's assistance made me feel like I was on the edge of something I couldn't quite grasp. My initial attempts to brush off my concerns as mere paranoia were beginning to give way to a nagging suspicion that something was fundamentally changing in our relationship. I found myself caught between wanting to trust Catherine and the growing realization that the boundaries of our once close partnership were starting to shift in ways I couldn't understand. As days turned into weeks, the quiet discontent that had been simmering beneath the surface of our marriage erupted into a desperate need for answers. Catherine's transformation into a recluse, her nightly excursions, and her increasingly mysterious relationship with Michael created a fog of suspicion that I could no longer ignore. Every conversation about her work seemed to have a subtext I couldn't decipher. Every late night became a source of mounting frustration and fear. The final straw came when Catherine, in a casual conversation, mentioned her deepening work with Michael once again, her voice tinged with a fervor that seemed almost too intense. Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of admiration and something else, something I couldn't quite place. It was at that moment that I decided I needed to confront the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The gallery was closed for the evening, its usual buzz of activity replaced by an oppressive silence. I had a spare key to Catherine's office, which I had kept from earlier when I would occasionally drop by to surprise her with lunch or a coffee. Tonight, it felt like my only means of unlocking the truth hidden behind closed doors. I arrived at the gallery under the pretense of a late work visit, my heart racing with the anticipation of discovery. Navigating the empty hallways, I finally reached Catherine's office. The space was eerily quiet, save for the distant hum of the city outside. With a deep breath, I unlocked the door and slipped inside. The office, usually a place of creative productivity, now felt like a sanctuary of secrets. My eyes were immediately drawn to a small, inconspicuous drawer in the back of her desk, one I had never noticed before. With shaking hands, I pulled open the drawer, revealing an assortment of personal items, neatly stacked diaries, handwritten notes, and a few loose photographs. My heart pounded as I carefully extracted the top diary, its worn leather cover revealing the passage of time and use. I hesitated for a moment before opening it, knowing that what I was about to read could change everything. The diary entries unfolded like a window into Catherine's private world, one that had been hidden from me. Her handwriting was flowing and expressive, a stark contrast to the professional demeanor she maintained in her public life. As I read through the pages, it became increasingly clear that Catherine's life had been deeply intertwined with Michael in ways I had never suspected. One entry detailed Catherine's growing fascination with Michael and the ancient artifacts they were studying together. Her words conveyed a sense of excitement and fulfillment that was palpable. She described how Michael's expertise had initially attracted her, but as they spent more time together, their professional relationship had shifted into something much more personal. Catherine wrote about how Michael had become a confidant and a source of emotional depth that she felt was lacking in our marriage. As I turned the pages, I stumbled upon a collection of photographs nestled between the diary entries. The images depicted Catherine and Michael in various locations, at an archaeological dig, at a charming cafe, and in intimate, candid moments that captured their closeness. The photos showed them sharing laughs, gazing into each other's eyes, and enjoying what appeared to be a series of private, joyful experiences. Each image painted a clearer picture of their growing relationship, one that was both affectionate and undeniably intimate. The final entry in the diary was the most devastating. Catherine's writing grew more personal and raw as she delved into her feelings for Michael. She admitted, in stark detail, that their relationship had evolved beyond professional boundaries. Catherine wrote about how Michael had become her lover, revealing the depth of their emotional and physical connection. Her words described a relationship that had provided her with the emotional fulfillment and intimacy she had been craving. Reading this entry was like a cold, hard slap to the face. Catherine's betrayal was laid bare in her own words, a confession that Michael was not merely a colleague, but someone with whom she had developed a deep, emotional, and physical bond. The realization that Catherine had not only been unfaithful, but had invested her heart in someone else was both heartbreaking and infuriating. It was as though the life we had built together had been a veneer, concealing a complex web of deception and betrayal. As I closed the diary, the weight of the revelations pressed down on me. The evidence was irrefutable and devastating. Catherine had betrayed our marriage in ways I could never have anticipated. The discovery of her secret life with Michael shattered the illusion of our perfect relationship and left me grappling with the painful reality of her infidelity. The decision to confront Catherine and Michael was one I had been dreading, yet it had become an unavoidable necessity. I had followed Catherine's late-night trail to a quiet, secluded cafe tucked away in a corner of the city. This was one of their secret meeting spots, a place she had mentioned in passing but had always been vague about. The cafe was a cozy, dimly lit space, with plush armchairs and low tables that created an intimate atmosphere, perfect for private conversations. I arrived just as twilight was deepening into night, feeling a mix of trepidation and resolve. I knew this confrontation would be explosive, but I could no longer bear the weight of uncertainty and betrayal. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come, and pushed open the door. The cafe was nearly empty, save for a few patrons lost in their worlds. In the far corner, Catherine and Michael sat huddled together, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of a table lamp. They were engrossed in conversation, their heads closed and their body language revealing a level of familiarity that was both intimate and troubling. Catherine's laughter, light and genuine, echoed in the quiet space, contrasting sharply with the storm that was brewing inside me. I made my way over, my footsteps deliberate but restrained. As I approached, I could see the moment they noticed my presence. Catherine's eyes widened in shock, and Michael's posture tensed. The shift in their demeanor was instantaneous. They knew something was coming, though perhaps not the full extent of it. I didn't waste any time. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the diary and photographs I had found in Catherine's office. With a deliberate motion, I placed them on the table between us, the evidence of their betrayal now visible to all. The photographs and diary entries lay exposed, each page and image a testament to their clandestine affair. "Catherine," I said, my voice steady despite the tumult of emotions raging inside me, "I think you owe me an explanation." The shock in Catherine's eyes was quickly replaced by a defensive glare. "John, this isn't what it looks like," she started, though her voice lacked conviction. Michael's face flushed with a mix of guilt and anger, and he glanced at Catherine as if searching for a way out. "Look, John, this isn't the right time or place for this," he said, attempting to deflect. But I couldn't be deterred. "The right time and place?" I echoed bitterly. "This is the reality of what's been going on behind my back. You've betrayed not just me, but the trust we built over the years." Catherine's expression hardened as she looked at me, her face a mask of defiance and pain. "John, I didn't mean for it to come to this. Things have changed, and I've struggled with my feelings. Michael and we developed a connection that I couldn't ignore." Michael shifted uncomfortably in his seat, unable to meet my gaze. "We didn't set out to hurt anyone," he said, though the words felt hollow. "It just happened." Catherine's facade finally cracked as she turned to me, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm sorry, John. I never wanted to hurt you like this, but you need to understand that my feelings for Michael are real. I was lost, and I found something with him that I couldn't find in our marriage." The admission was a gut punch. The reality of her feelings, her betrayal, and the way she had chosen to express them were laid bare. The raw honesty in her confession was both devastating and sobering. My anger was now mingled with a profound sense of loss, and I could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on me. "I see now," I said, my voice tinged with resignation. "You've chosen this path, and there's no turning back from it. I can't be part of this any longer." The confrontation ended with a palpable silence, the air heavy with the aftermath of truth and betrayal. Catherine and Michael remained seated, their faces etched with a mixture of remorse and resolve. I turned and walked away, the ache of finality settling into my bones. The cafe, once a symbol of their secret world, now felt like a stage for the most painful chapter of my life. The days following the confrontation were a blur of confusion and heartbreak. Catherine's decision to stay with Michael and the gravity of her confession left me grappling with an emotional upheaval that was almost too overwhelming to process. The once familiar world I had known with Catherine had dissolved into chaos, leaving me to navigate a path I had never imagined walking. Our home, once a sanctuary filled with shared dreams and laughter, now felt like a monument to our shattered past. Each room seemed to echo with the memories of happier times, and the silence that had replaced our conversations was a constant reminder of what was lost. The walls, adorned with the art we both loved, now felt like witnesses to the unraveling of our lives. Catherine and Michael's decision to continue their relationship was not merely an act of betrayal. It was a profound redefinition of what had been our life together. I spent hours contemplating her words, trying to reconcile the image of the woman I had loved with the reality of her new life. The realization that she saw Michael as her true love and had chosen to build a future with him was a crushing blow. Catherine's assertion that she no longer wished to return to our marriage was made with a cold clarity that stung deeply. She spoke of her feelings for Michael with a sense of finality that was both disheartening and alienating. To hear her express that the love she had found with him was something she had never experienced with me was both a stark and painful acknowledgement of how deeply she had changed. As Catherine packed her belongings, her movements were methodical, almost detached, as if she were moving through a routine rather than leaving behind a life she had once cherished. Each item she placed into boxes was a symbol of the life we had built together, and each step she took toward the door felt like a step further from the person I had once called my partner. There was no anger or confrontation in her departure, just a quiet resignation that seemed to echo the finality of our split. My emotions were a tempest of confusion and sorrow. The betrayal felt like a raw wound that refused to heal, leaving me with an intense sense of abandonment. I was haunted by questions about where I had gone wrong, why I had not seen the signs, and how I could have missed the profound shift in Catherine's heart. The sense of being left behind, discarded for a love that was now deemed more genuine, was almost unbearable. Amid this chaos, I found myself grappling with a torrent of feelings: anger, grief, and a deep sense of betrayal. The pain was compounded by the realization that Catherine had not only moved on, but had done so in a way that invalidated our shared history. The future we had envisioned together, filled with art, travel, and mutual support, now seemed like a distant dream, eclipsed by the reality of her new relationship. The emotional turmoil was exhausting. I struggled to find grounding in a world that had suddenly shifted beneath my feet. The person I had trusted and loved had become a stranger who had chosen a different path, and I was left to navigate the wreckage of our once shared life. The sense of being unmoored, of losing not just a partner, but a piece of my own identity, was a painful reminder of how quickly everything can change. As Catherine left to begin her new life with Michael, the weight of her departure settled heavily on my shoulders. The emotional landscape of my life was now a fractured mirror, reflecting the pain of a broken relationship and the daunting task of rebuilding from the ruins. In the quiet aftermath, I was left to confront the reality of my solitude and the task of finding a way forward, despite the lingering shadows of betrayal and loss. In the wake of Catherine's departure and the end of our marriage, I faced an overwhelming sense of loss and uncertainty. The pain of her betrayal had not only shattered my heart, but had also left me grappling with questions about my future. The once clear path I had envisioned for myself was now obscured by the wreckage of our relationship, and I found myself at a crossroads, unsure of how to move forward. After much reflection, I made the painful decision to sever all communication with Catherine. The idea of continuing any form of contact with her, given the nature of our separation and the emotional turmoil I was experiencing, felt impossible. It was clear that maintaining any form of interaction would only prolong my suffering and hinder my ability to heal. As much as it hurt to accept, I needed to distance myself from the source of my pain to begin the process of recovery. I reached out for professional help, recognizing that navigating this emotional labyrinth alone was not only daunting, but also detrimental to my well-being. The decision to see a therapist was one of the most important choices I made during this period. I found a psychologist who specializes in relationship issues and grief. The initial sessions were challenging, as I grappled with articulating the depth of my hurt and coming to terms with the reality of my situation. Therapy became a space where I could explore my feelings without judgment and work through the complex emotions of anger, sadness, and self-doubt. My psychologist helped me understand that it was not only Catherine's actions that had impacted me, but also my sense of identity and self-worth that needed healing. Through our sessions, I began to gain insight into the patterns of my behavior, the underlying insecurities that had influenced our relationship, and the steps I needed to take to rebuild my sense of self. The journey of self-discovery and healing was neither quick nor easy. It involved confronting difficult truths about myself and acknowledging how I had allowed my own needs and boundaries to be overlooked. Slowly but surely, I began to understand the importance of focusing on my recovery and well-being rather than dwelling on the past. With a clearer understanding of my own needs and a renewed sense of purpose, I embarked on a journey to rebuild my life from the ground up. The first step was to change my living situation. The apartment that had once been a symbol of our shared dreams now felt like a tomb of lost happiness. I decided to move to a new place, one that would offer a fresh start and a chance to create new memories. Finding a new home was both a practical and symbolic act. I chose a cozy apartment in a different neighborhood, one that felt vibrant and full of possibilities. The change of scenery was invigorating, and it allowed me to begin the process of reclaiming my own space and identity. The new environment provided a backdrop for the changes I needed to make in my life, offering a sense of renewal and optimism. Reconnecting with old friends and family was another crucial step in my healing process. The emotional distance I had maintained during my marriage had led me to drift away from many of my relationships. I reached out to those who had been important in my life before, rekindling friendships and seeking support from loved ones. Their presence in my life provided a sense of grounding and reassurance, reminding me of the connections that had been important to me long before my marriage had consumed my focus. In addition to rebuilding relationships, I began to explore new interests and hobbies. I took up activities that had always intrigued me but had been put aside in favor of shared pursuits with Catherine. I joined a local art class, rediscovered my love for hiking, and even started volunteering at a community center. Each new experience was a step toward rediscovering who I was outside of my past relationship and finding joy in things that were uniquely mine. The journey of rebuilding my life was marked by moments of both triumph and struggle. There were days when the weight of the past felt overwhelming, but there were also days when I felt a renewed sense of purpose and hope. Each small victory, whether it was a new friendship, a personal achievement, or a moment of peace, contributed to my ongoing recovery and growth. As I moved forward, I began to see the contours of a new life taking shape, one that was grounded in my values, interests, and aspirations. The path of solitude was challenging, but it also offered a chance to forge a future that was uniquely my own. In embracing the changes and finding my place in the world again, I learned that healing and growth were not just about moving on from the past, but also about building a new foundation for a fulfilling and meaningful life. As the months passed since Catherine's departure, I began to find solace and purpose in my work. The process of moving on from the past was not without its struggles, but I found that immersing myself in my career provided a much-needed distraction and a sense of achievement. My role as an architect, which had once been a shared passion with Catherine, became a focal point for my personal growth and recovery. The new projects I undertook allowed me to channel my energy into something productive and fulfilling. I poured my creativity and dedication into designing innovative spaces, pushing the boundaries of my professional skills. This renewed focus on my work not only provided a sense of accomplishment, but also helped me rebuild my confidence. Each successful project and positive client feedback reinforced the idea that I could find meaning and satisfaction in my professional achievements. Amid this professional rejuvenation, I began to explore new career horizons. I took on additional responsibilities and sought opportunities to expand my skill set. Attending industry conferences, collaborating on interdisciplinary projects, and even considering a potential shift into a new architectural specialty opened up exciting avenues for growth. The challenges of my work became opportunities for personal development, and I started to realize that my career could offer more than just a means of livelihood. It could be a source of deep personal satisfaction. As I navigated this phase of my life, I came to understand that happiness did not solely depend on being in a relationship. The fulfillment I derived from my work and the sense of accomplishment I experienced in my achievements helped me recognize that it was possible to find contentment and joy on my own. The solitude I had once feared now felt like a space for self-discovery and personal enrichment. I began to appreciate the freedom and autonomy that came with being single, and I found that I could build a life of happiness and purpose without relying on someone else to define it for me. One crisp autumn afternoon, while I was out running errands, I encountered a situation that I had never anticipated. I had decided to visit a quaint bookstore in a neighborhood I had recently grown fond of, seeking solace in the quiet ambience and the comfort of browsing through books. As I wandered through the aisles, lost in thought, I turned a corner and came face to face with Catherine and Michael. The sight of them was startling. Catherine looked different. Her once vibrant demeanor was now overshadowed by an air of melancholy. Her eyes, which had previously sparkled with excitement, were now clouded with a sense of distress. Michael, who stood beside her, appeared equally uneasy, as if the weight of their presence at that moment was as heavy for him as it was for me. The initial shock of the encounter left me momentarily speechless. I had not expected to see them, let alone in such a candid and unguarded state. Catherine's expression was a stark contrast to the confidence she had displayed when we last spoke. There was no denying that her new life, which had seemed so perfect from the outside, was now marred by visible signs of dissatisfaction and unhappiness. As the minutes passed, I found myself observing their interaction with a mix of curiosity and compassion. Catherine seemed preoccupied and distant, her conversations with Michael lacking the warmth and connection that I had once witnessed. Their body language, which had once radiated closeness and affection, now seemed strained and distant. The contrast between their previous happiness and their current discontent was striking. The encounter was brief, and there were no words exchanged between us. The recognition was mutual, and the awkwardness of the situation made any attempt at conversation seem out of place. As I watched them leave the bookstore, I couldn't help but reflect on the irony of the situation. The perfect life they had once portrayed now seemed less than ideal, revealing the complexities and struggles that were hidden beneath the surface. This unexpected meeting left me with a profound sense of introspection. Seeing Catherine and Michael in this light made me realize that their seemingly perfect relationship was not immune to the challenges and imperfections that affect all relationships. It was a sobering reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and that the struggles I had faced were not unique to me alone. As I continued to navigate my path, the encounter with Catherine and Michael catalyzed deeper self-reflection. It reinforced the understanding that my journey toward healing and happiness was a valid and worthwhile pursuit. Their visible struggles reminded me that no life is without its difficulties, and finding contentment in my own life was a meaningful achievement. This realization helped me to embrace my path with renewed clarity and to appreciate the progress I had made in my journey of recovery. Months after the chance encounter at the bookstore, Catherine reached out to me, asking if we could meet and talk. Her request was unexpected, and I found myself grappling with mixed emotions. Despite the progress I had made in my healing, the idea of facing Catherine again stirred up old feelings. Yet, I recognized that this meeting could provide a crucial opportunity for closure and understanding. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe, one that was neutral and unobtrusive, a place where we could speak candidly without the weight of our past looming too heavily over us. As I walked into the cafe, I saw Catherine sitting at a table by the window, her posture betraying a sense of nervous anticipation. The sight of her brought a rush of memories, but I focused on the present, determined to approach this conversation with an open mind. Catherine greeted me with a subdued smile, and we exchanged pleasantries before diving into the heart of the conversation. It was clear from the outset that Catherine was struggling with a sense of regret and introspection. She began by acknowledging the difficulties she had faced in her relationship with Michael, admitting that their idealized vision of a perfect life had not lived up to reality. "I've come to realize that what I thought was the answer to my happiness wasn't all it was cracked up to be," Catherine confessed. Her voice was tinged with weariness. "Michael and I have faced challenges I never anticipated. The truth is, our relationship hasn't been as fulfilling as I hoped it would be." Her words, though difficult to hear, were a stark reminder of the disillusionment that can accompany unmet expectations. Catherine's candid admission was both humbling and poignant. She spoke of the disconnect she had experienced, the disillusionment with the life she had chosen, and the realization that the grass wasn't always greener on the other side. As we continued our discussion, Catherine and I revisited the past, reflecting on our time together and the decisions that had led to our separation. There were moments of shared understanding and even sadness as we acknowledged how we had both fallen short of our ideals and expectations. It became evident that our relationship had been marked by genuine affection, but also by complex dynamics that neither of us had fully understood at the time. I listened intently, feeling a mix of empathy and sorrow. The conversation, though emotionally charged, was an important step in coming to terms with our shared history. As Catherine expressed her regrets and sought forgiveness, I found myself contemplating the impact of her actions on my journey. Ultimately, I reached a decision that felt right for me. I chose to forgive Catherine, not as a way to erase the past, but as a means to release the lingering bitterness that had held me back. Forgiveness, I realized, was a gift I was giving myself, a way to move forward without carrying the weight of resentment. "I appreciate your honesty," I said quietly. "I've come to understand that holding on to anger and pain won't change what's happened. Forgiving you is my way of letting go and moving on." Catherine's eyes filled with gratitude and relief as she heard my words. "Thank you, John. I've been carrying a lot of guilt and regret, and your forgiveness means more than I can express." With our conversation behind us, Catherine prepared to leave and embark on a new chapter of her life. She had decided to move to a different city, seeking a fresh start and the opportunity to rediscover her path. As we said our goodbyes, there was a sense of finality and closure that felt both poignant and necessary. "Goodbye, John," Catherine said, her voice soft. "I hope you find the happiness and fulfillment you deserve." I watched as she walked away, her figure slowly disappearing into the distance. The moment was bittersweet, a poignant end to a chapter that had been fraught with both joy and pain. It marked the end of an era and the beginning of new possibilities for both of us. In the weeks following Catherine's departure, I found myself embracing a renewed sense of purpose and possibility. The act of forgiving her had allowed me to shed the last remnants of lingering hurt and to focus on my growth. I threw myself into my work with even greater enthusiasm, taking on new projects and exploring opportunities that had once seemed out of reach. I also began to explore new relationships and connections, opening myself up to friendships and potential romantic interests that aligned with my values and aspirations. The journey of rebuilding my life led me to discover new passions and interests, and I embrace these changes with optimism and excitement. As I reflect on the journey I have traversed, it becomes clear that the betrayal I experienced was a profound and unsettling event. The impact of Catherine's departure and the subsequent upheaval in my life were undeniably devastating. The emotional turmoil and the sense of loss I endured felt like a storm that had swept through every corner of my existence, leaving behind a landscape that needed to be rebuilt from scratch. Yet, amidst the destruction and the heartache, there emerged an unexpected opportunity for growth and transformation. The aftermath of the betrayal, though painful, provided me with a chance to reevaluate my life in ways I had never considered before. It forced me to confront the reality of my own needs, desires, and aspirations, and it gave me the impetus to embark on a journey of self-discovery and renewal. In the weeks and months following Catherine's departure, I learned to view the experience not solely as a tragedy, but as a catalyst for personal development. The process of healing involved much more than just overcoming pain. It was about embracing the opportunity to reshape my life and explore new possibilities. I delved into my work with renewed vigor, discovering a sense of purpose and accomplishment that had been overshadowed by the complexities of my previous relationship. The success and fulfillment I found in my career became a testament to my ability to thrive despite the challenges I faced. The journey also led me to reconnect with myself on a deeper level. Through therapy and introspection, I gained insights into my strengths and vulnerabilities. The process of forgiveness, both towards Catherine and myself, was a crucial step in finding inner peace. I came to understand that forgiveness was not about condoning the past, but about freeing myself from the burdens of anger and resentment. It allowed me to move forward with a sense of clarity and emotional resilience. As I embraced the new chapter of my life, I began to cultivate a sense of inner peace and self-assurance. The freedom to explore new relationships, passions, and opportunities gave me a renewed sense of confidence. I learned that happiness and fulfillment could be found within myself, independent of external circumstances. The experiences of the past had shaped me, but they no longer define my future. Building my life anew involved more than just practical changes. It was about nurturing a mindset that embraced growth and possibility. I approached each day with a sense of optimism, eager to discover the potential that lay ahead. The journey had taught me that even in the face of profound loss, there was always the possibility for renewal and transformation. In conclusion, while the betrayal and its aftermath had undeniably disrupted my world, they also offered me a profound opportunity to reframe my life. The process of rebuilding and rediscovery allowed me to find a deeper sense of purpose and satisfaction. The experience, though painful, had ultimately guided me towards a greater understanding of myself and a more fulfilling path forward. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any new videos.